The email from Mom's lawyer sat unopened in my inbox for 3 days. Every time I saw the subject line, "Update estate planning documents," my stomach twisted into knots. On the fourth morning, over my usual black coffee at my home office desk, I finally clicked. "Dear Miss Walker, as requested by your mother, Patricia Walker, I'm sending the updated version of her will and estate planning documents for your records." My hands trembled as I scrolled through the attachments. The coffee grew cold beside me, forgotten. 20 years of supporting Mom after Dad's death, paying her mortgage, funding her medical bills, even covering the property taxes on her beloved Victorian house. And this was my reward. Everything, down to the last penny and family heirloom, left to my younger brother Thomas. "This can't be right," I whispered, but the words on my screen didn't change. I reached for my phone, then stopped. What could I even say? The memories came flooding back. Thomas showing up at Mom's house in his shiny new Porsche while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep her financially stable. Him swooping in for holidays with expensive gifts bought on credit cards while I quietly paid her insurance premiums. The way she cooed over his success in real estate, conveniently ignoring that his business ventures constantly needed bailouts, which I provided through Mom, never letting her know the money came from me. My brother had mastered the art of appearances, while I'd focused on substance. Now I was staring at the consequences of that choice. The phone rang, startling me. Mom's smiling face lit up my screen. Her weekly call to check in, which usually meant asking for money for some new expense. My finger hovered over the decline button. "Not today," I murmured, letting it ring through to voicemail. It took me exactly 17 minutes to draft the email to my financial advisor. "Please cancel all recurring transfers to Patricia Walker's accounts, effective immediately." Another 10 minutes to cancel the automatic bill payments I'd set up for her utilities and property tax. I felt sick doing it, but anger kept my fingers steady on the keyboard. The words from the will kept flashing through my mind. "To my beloved son Thomas, in recognition of his devotion and care." Devotion and care. The phrase would have been laughable if it hadn't hurt so much. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. "Emmy, dear, is everything all right? You didn't answer my call. The property tax bill just came in." I turned my phone face down on my desk. The first 2 weeks passed in silence. I threw myself into work, grateful for the demanding merger project that kept my mind occupied. But every night when I got home, I'd catch myself reaching for the phone to call Mom, checking to make sure she'd taken her evening medications. Then Thomas started calling. I blocked his number after the third voicemail filled with accusations about abandoning family and being selfish. Rich coming from him. It was exactly 1 month after I'd seen the will when Mom's name appeared on my office phone. Not her cell, the landline I'd insisted she keep for emergencies. My assistant looked at me questioningly. "Put her through," I said, squaring my shoulders. "Where's my money?" Mom's voice crackled through the speaker, more demanding than I'd ever heard it. "The property tax is overdue, and none of my bills are being paid." I took a deep breath, fingers drumming on my mahogany desk. "I know. Well, are you going to fix it? I need you to transfer the funds right away." The entitlement in her tone made something snap inside me. 20 years of carefully maintained composure crumbled. "No, Mom. I'm not sending any more money. Ever." The silence on the other end was deafening. "What do you mean, no?" Mom's voice wavered between indignation and disbelief. "Emmy, I'm your mother. I need this money." "You need Thomas," I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. "After all, you're leaving him everything. Let him handle the bills from now on." Another long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was small. You saw the will?" "Yes, I did. Interesting reading material." I picked up a pen, twirling it between my fingers. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Or did you just not care?" "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Mom? Please enlighten me." "Thomas needs the security more than you do," she said, as if that explained everything. "You're so successful, Emmy. You have your career, your house. Thomas has struggled so much." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Struggled? Mom, do you want to know where all that emergency money you've been asking me for really went? Straight to Thomas's failed business ventures. I've been bankrolling his struggles for years." "What?" "No, that's not." She trailed off, confusion evident in her voice. "Every time he came to you needing a bailout, who did you call?" "Me. Every single time. And I paid, because I couldn't bear to see you worried about him." But that's different," Mom sputtered. "Those were just loans. This is about inheritance, about family legacy." And I'm not family? The words came out sharper than I intended. I've been there every single day since Dad died. Every medical appointment, every house repair, every bill. While Thomas showed up for holidays with empty promises and grandiose stories. He's trying his best. No, Mom, he's not. He's never tried at all. He just knows exactly what to say to make you believe in him. And somehow, that's worth more to you than everything I've actually done. I heard her breath catch. Could picture her sitting in the kitchen I'd helped her remodel, probably clutching her favorite coffee mug, the one I'd bought her last Mother's Day. Emmy, please, she whispered. I didn't mean to hurt you. Thomas needs a safety net. You've always been the strong one. Strong doesn't mean invulnerable, Mom, and it definitely doesn't mean I deserve less love. My voice cracked on the last word. Do you have any idea how much it hurt to read that will? To see everything, even Grandma's pearls that you promised would be mine, going to him? The silence stretched between us, heavy with decades of unspoken truths. I could hear her crying softly on the other end of the line. I can change it, she finally said. The will. I'll call the lawyer today. That's not the point, Mom. I pinched the bridge of my nose, fighting back my own tears. The point is that you wrote it in the first place. The point is that after everything, all these years of me being there for you, you still chose him. You still thought he deserved everything while I deserved nothing. I never meant. Intent doesn't change impact. And the impact? It shattered something I don't think we can fix. What are you saying? Mom's voice trembled. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the family photo on my desk from last Christmas. Thomas beaming in his designer suit, Mom glowing with pride beside him, me standing slightly apart, exhausted from another year of holding everything together. I'm saying I'm done. No more money, no more solving everyone's problems, no more pretending this is okay. I took a deep breath. You made your choice, Mom. Now I'm making mine. But what about the property tax? The bills? Emmy, I can't. Call Thomas. I'm sure he'll figure something out. He always does, right? You can't just abandon me like this. Mom's voice rose with panic. I'm 73 years old, and Thomas is 42. Old enough to step up and be the devoted son you already think he is. I kept my voice level, even as my hands shook. I'm not abandoning you, Mom. I'm just stepping back to the same level of involvement he's had all these years. Seems fair, since you view him as the more deserving child. The sharp intake of breath told me my words had hit home. Good. Sometimes truth needed to hurt before it could heal. Emmy, please, let's talk about this in person. Come over for dinner. Number. The word came out firm, final. I need some time, space. Maybe we all do. But, goodbye, Mom. I love you, but I can't do this anymore. I hung up before she could respond, before my resolve could crumble. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing with texts from Thomas. I glanced at the first one. What the hell did you say to Mom? Fix this now. I blocked his number on my personal phone, too, then turned to my computer and opened my email. It was time to make some changes, starting with canceling the cleaning service I'd arranged for Mom's house, and the lawn care, and the grocery delivery. 3 months passed. Fall turned to winter, and the holidays loomed. My assistant fielded calls from both Mom and Thomas, following my instructions to politely decline any messages. I threw myself into work, accepted a project in Seattle that kept me traveling, and tried not to think about the empty chair at my dining table where Mom used to sit for our weekly dinners. Then came the email from Claire, Mom's next-door neighbor and longtime friend. Emily, I know you and your mother are having issues, but I thought you should know. The electricity was shut off at her house yesterday. I saw her sitting in the dark through her window. Thomas hasn't been around in weeks. My chest tightened. I'd expected this, known it would happen eventually. I didn't respond to Claire's email, but I did drive by Mom's house that night. All the windows were dark except for a faint flicker of candlelight in the kitchen. The lawn was overgrown, leaves piled up on the porch. Tasks Thomas had apparently decided weren't his problem. For a moment, I almost caved. My hand was on my phone, ready to call the utility company, to fall back into my old patterns. Instead, I drove to my favorite coffee shop and ordered a cappuccino. As I sat there, I composed a different email to my therapist requesting an appointment. Breaking lifelong patterns wasn't easy, but it was necessary. A week later, Mom showed up at my office unannounced. Her hair was unstyled, her clothes wrinkled, so unlike her usual polished appearance. My assistant shot me an apologetic look as Mom brushed past her into my office. Emmy, this has gone on long enough, she declared, but her voice lacked its usual authority. The house is falling apart, the utilities are shut off, and Thomas, she faltered. Let me guess, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Thomas is too busy to help? Or maybe he's promised to fix everything once his latest deal comes through. Mom sank into the chair across from my desk, suddenly looking every one of her 73 years. I made a mistake, she whispered, her hands twisting in her lap. With the will, with everything. I've been thinking about what you said, about how I've treated you both so differently. I waited, pen poised over the legal pad in front of me, unwilling to make this easier for her. Thomas. She took a shaky breath. When I told him about the financial situation, he said he'd help. He promised to take care of everything. Then he asked me to refinance the house and invest in his new business venture. Of course he had. Some patterns never changed. What did you tell him? I asked. I said no. Mom's voice strengthened slightly. For the first time in his life, I actually said no to him. He didn't take it well. Stormed out, said I was choosing you over him, that I was betraying him. A bitter laugh escaped me. Funny how he sees it that way. I've been so blind, she continued, pulling a folded paper from her purse. I brought something for you to see. I went through my financial records, tried to track everything you've done for me over the years. The total. Her voice cracked. Emmy, I had no idea it was so much. I took the paper but didn't unfold it. I already knew the numbers. Every mortgage payment, medical bill, property tax installment. They were burned into my memory along with every late-night phone call and emergency loan to Thomas. It's not about the money, Mom. I know. She reached across the desk, hesitating before placing her hand over mine. It's about how I took you for granted. How I never saw that Thomas's charm was just empty promises. While you were quietly keeping everything from falling apart, for the first time in months, I met her eyes directly. They were red-rimmed but clear. I went to see my lawyer yesterday, Mom continued. Changed everything back. The house, the accounts, Grandma's pearls. It's all yours now. I know it doesn't fix what I did, but stop. I held up my hand. I don't want you to change the will because you need money. That's not fixing anything. That's just trading one kind of manipulation for another. She flinched, but nodded slowly. You're right. Again. But what can I do? How do I make this right? I considered her question carefully, noting the genuine desperation in her voice. For once, she wasn't trying to guilt me into helping. She was actually asking what I needed. First, you need to learn to stand on your own, I said finally. I'll help you set up a reasonable budget based on your Social Security and pension. You'll need to downsize. The Victorian house is too expensive to maintain. And you'll need to be the one to tell Thomas that his safety net is gone. Mom's shoulders slumped, but she straightened them almost immediately. And then we start over. Weekly dinners, but with new boundaries. No more financial discussions. No more enabling Thomas. Just us trying to rebuild what we lost. And the will? Leave it as it is for now. We can revisit it when it's not about crisis management. Mom stayed in my office for another hour as we worked out a practical plan. I recommended a real estate agent who specialized in helping seniors downsize, gave her the name of my financial advisor, and agreed to unblock her phone number. There's one more thing, she said as she stood to leave. I owe you an apology for something specific. Remember last Christmas when I bragged to everyone about Thomas's real estate empire, but barely mentioned your promotion to CFO? I remembered. It had stung, watching her glow with pride over Thomas's exaggerated success, while dismissing my actual achievements. I was wrong, she said simply. I'm proud of you, Emmy. I should have said it years ago. 2 days later, I got a text from Mom with a photo attached. She was standing in front of a for sale sign in her yard, giving a shaky thumbs up. Below it, she'd written, First step taken. Thomas called screaming about family betrayal. I hung up on him. I smiled, typing back. Proud of you, Mom. It wasn't perfect. Years of dysfunctional family dynamics wouldn't disappear overnight. But as I sat in my office, looking at that photo, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. Sometimes cutting someone off isn't about punishment. It's about creating space for change. The following Sunday, Mom came over for dinner. She brought a small gift box, which she placed beside my plate. I know you said not to change the will, she said as I opened it to find Grandma's pearls. But these were always meant for you. No strings attached. I ran my fingers over the smooth beads, remembering how Grandma used to let me play with them when I was little. Thank you. We ate together, talking about simple things, her upcoming move, my work, the weather. No mentions of Thomas, no requests for help, no guilt trips. Just mother and daughter finding their way back to each other. As I walked Mom to her car that evening, she paused and turned to me. You know what the hardest part of all this has been? What's that? Realizing that by trying to protect Thomas from failure, I was actually preventing him from growing up. And in the process, I almost lost a daughter who never needed protecting at all. I hugged her then, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. We're going to be okay, Mom. Yes, she said firmly, we are. Later that night, as I hung Grandma's pearls in my jewelry box, I smiled. Sometimes the best response to a betrayal isn't revenge, it's setting yourself free.